The twin moons of Valeris floated high above the shining towers of the crystal capital. From the highest balcony of the royal palace, Queen Zelari looked down with cold eyes. Her gown flowed like silver water. Her skin shimmered under the soft lights. She was perfect, tall, elegant, and feared by many across the stars. But today, something unusual was about to happen. A group of Earth delegates had arrived on her planet. It was the first time in history that humans were allowed into the inner palace of Valeris. The queen didn't like it. She thought humans were dirty, emotional, and simple-minded.
Wow.
She only agreed to this meeting to please the Galactic Council. Her assistant, Minister Threx, stepped beside her. "They're landing now, my queen," he said, bowing low. Queen Zelari sighed. "Let's get this over with." The royal garden was prepared for the official ceremony. Flowers glowed in every color, and soft alien music played in the air. A large group of Valerian nobles stood on one side, while the humans arrived from the other. At the front stood Ambassador Lin, an older woman with calm eyes. Behind her was a small group of human guards. One of them, Corporal Jacob Reed, stood near the back, quiet, respectful, and alert. He wasn't important, not to the queen, not yet. Queen Zelari stepped onto the marble path. Everyone bowed. Ambassador Lin walked forward and spoke respectfully. "We are honored, Your Majesty. Earth hopes to build peace and friendship with Valeris." Zelari gave a short nod. "We shall see." Jacob stood still, his eyes scanning the area. He wasn't used to planets like this. Everything sparkled, and the air smelled like sweet spices. The armor he wore was heavy. A small fault in his suit's cooling system made his skin sweat under the heat of Valeris' twin suns. Without a word, he removed his helmet to adjust the settings. A drop of sweat rolled down from his temple, fell onto the smooth white stone at his feet. He didn't think much of it, but Queen Zelari walked past at that exact moment. She paused. It was almost invisible, but her body jerked slightly. Her long fingers trembled for a second. Her nostrils flared. Her breath hitched. She had smelled something. Something strange. It wasn't perfume. It wasn't poison. It was a natural scent, warm, musky, unfamiliar, and oddly pleasing. She blinked fast, then walked away quickly. Inside the palace, Queen Zelari gripped the side of her private table. "What was that?" she whispered. Minister Threx looked up. "My queen." "Nothing," she said, straightening her shoulders. "Continue with the meeting preparations." But she could still feel it. A strange tingling in her chest. Her mouth felt dry. Her fingers refused to stay still. It was as if her body had been awakened by something hidden deep inside her. She had never felt this before. She was confused. She was annoyed, and deep down, she was curious. That evening, she requested a medical scan. A royal healer checked her body with the most advanced tools in the galaxy. "Your body shows no sign of sickness, Your Majesty," the healer said nervously. "But your neural activity was briefly affected. Sharp increase in heart rate, slight hormonal spikes. It's similar to attraction, Zelari repeated, shocked. "To what? We don't know." It ended almost as quickly as it began. The queen dismissed her healer and sat in silence for a long time. Her thoughts were sharp, but her body still remembered that moment. The scent, the heat, the strange loss of control. Her mind raced. The next morning, the humans were invited for a tour of the palace. Jacob was one of the guards chosen to protect Ambassador Lin. He kept his distance, walking quietly through the shining halls of alien crystal. What he didn't know was that the queen was watching him. From behind a screen, Zelari studied his movements. The way he stood tall, but calm. The way he spoke softly. The way he politely nodded at every servant he passed. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply existed, and somehow. Her body reacted every time he came close. A gentle wave of heat would rise inside her. Her skin would pulse with a strange energy. Her heart would flutter like a child's. It was absurd. He was just a human. Later, during a formal lunch, Jacob stood near a pillar while the leaders talked. He wiped his forehead with a cloth after standing in the sun again. Queen Zelari caught sight of it tanned. That scent came again. Even across the hall, she dropped her silver fork. A soft clang echoed across the room. Everyone turned. The queen stood quickly. I am not feeling well, she said, leaving the room without looking back in her chamber. She paced like a wild creature. This is ridiculous, she hissed. She called her most trusted scientist, Sorla, a quiet and loyal mind reader. Run a full test, Zalari ordered. On me. On humans. Find out if there is any ancient chemical link between our kinds. Anything. Forgotten. Sorla nodded slowly. Of course, my queen. But, may I ask why now? Zalari's eyes burned. Because my body is reacting to something it shouldn't, and I do not lose control. Ever. That night, while the palace slept, Jacob sat on a bench in the garden. Removing his gloves to cool his hands, the stars of Valeris lit the sky in gold and purple. He whispered to himself, "This place is so strange, but so peaceful." Unseen in the shadows, Queen Zelari stood at her balcony above him, looking down. She could smell the air again, its same warmth, its same invisible pull. She gripped the stone railing tightly. Her royal rings dug into her skin. "I must know," she whispered. Queen Zalari sat alone in her private chamber, staring at the glass of golden juice in front of her. Her hands were still. Her face was calm. But inside, she was a storm. For 2 days, her body had been reacting strangely heart-racing, warmth in her chest, sudden weakness in her legs. And all of it started the moment she smelled the human scent. It made no sense. She was a Valerian queen, powerful, disciplined, and genetically perfect. Nothing had ever affected her like this. Why now? She whispered to herself. Him. At that moment, her trusted scientist, Sorla, entered the chamber with a small device in her hands. "My queen," Sorla said, bowing. "I ran the tests you asked for. The results are unexpected." "Speak." "There are traces of ancient pheromone receptors in your DNA once used for mate selection by our ancestors. These receptors have been inactive for thousands of years. But now one of them has reactivated." Zalari narrowed her eyes. "Why?" Sorla hesitated. "We believe. The scent of a specific compound found in human sweat triggered it. It's a rare match. Your body is reacting as if it found a perfect mate." Zalari stood up sharply. "That human," she said, her voice low. Sorla nodded. "Yes, Corporal Jacob Reed." The queen turned away, her mind spinning. "This is nonsense." She said, "I don't choose partners. I choose alliances. I choose strength." Sorla lowered her head. "But your body's choosing him." That night, Queen Zalari couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered Jacob's face. His steady hands, the way he stood still during the ceremony, the way he wiped his brow without a second thought. She remembered the scent, that warm, earthy smell. Her heart beat faster just thinking about it. "No," she told herself. "This is weakness. I must face it." The next morning, she summoned Jacob. He was surprised. He had barely spoken to her during his stay. When he entered the royal study, he stood straight and saluted. "You requested me, Your Majesty?" Queen Zalari looked at him carefully. His armor was polished, his face was calm but serious. His eyes did not stare at her beauty like other males. That made her curious. "I have questions," she said simply. "You will answer." "Yes, ma'am." She slowly walked around him. "How old are you?" 25. "Are you married?" "Why did you join the military?" "To protect Earth's people. To travel. To learn." She stopped in front of him. "Are you afraid of me?" He met her eyes. "No, I respect you." Her heart skipped a beat. She turned away quickly. "I need to perform a test," she said. "Extend your hand." Jacob obeyed. She slipped on a thin glove and reached out to touch his palm. The moment their hands connected, a shock ran through her body. It wasn't painful, but it was powerful. Her breath caught. Her knees felt weak. She pulled her hand back fast. Jacob looked confused. Did I do something wrong? No, she said, trying to stay calm. You may go. After he left, she sat down and took deep breaths. I touched him with a glove, she whispered. And still, my body reacted. This wasn't going away. Meanwhile, Jacob returned to his quarters, puzzled. The queen was beautiful, yes. She was also strange. Cold one moment, nervous the next. And why did she ask such personal questions? Still, he admired her. She carried herself with strength. She didn't pretend. And when their hands touched, he did feel something like He sparked under his skin, but he said nothing. He was just a soldier. She was a queen. Later that day, Queen Zalari held a council meeting. Her top advisors, generals, scientists gathered in the high chamber, but she couldn't focus. Every few minutes, her mind drifted back to Jacob. She tried to shake the thoughts away, but they kept returning. Her general spoke about border patrols. Her mind whispered, "Is Jacob training today?" Her advisor mentioned trade ships. Her heart asked, "Did he smile when I touched him?" She stood up suddenly. "This meeting is over," she said. Everyone stared in shock. "But Your Majesty," one advisor began. I said leave. The royal tower, Queen Zalari, stood on her balcony again, below. In the training courtyard, Jacob was practicing sword drills with another human soldier. She watched in silence. Sweat rolled down his arms as he moved. His muscles tightened with each swing. His movements were smooth and focused. Her eyes narrowed. She could feel her heartbeat rise again. "This is madness," she whispered. "Why him?" He paused to rest and wiped his face with his sleeve. She inhaled sharply. That scent was back, and it hit her harder than ever. She stumbled back from the balcony, gripping the wall. "I can't breathe," she muttered. A royal guard ran in. "My queen, are you all right?" She nodded quickly. "Leave me." At night she called Sorla again. "I need answers," she said. Sorla looked worried. "My queen, the more time you spend near him, the stronger. The reaction may become, it's a rare match, but it's real. Your body sees him as the one. You're bonding." "Break the bond," Zalari said coldly. "We can't. Not without damaging your brain. The only way is to stay away from him completely, or give in." Zalari turned away, her jaw tight. "I am a queen. I will not give in." But staying away proved harder than she thought. Every time she heard his voice echo in the halls, her chest tightened. Every time he passed by, her skin tingled. And then something unexpected happened. The neighboring empire, Trivax, sent an early guest, Prince Kale, a tall, proud warrior who had been promised to Zalari in a political marriage. He arrived with gifts, smiles, and demands. "I heard you've been spending time with humans," Kale said with a sneer. "Curious choice?" Zalari smiled coldly. "They are guests." He stepped closer. "You don't need them. You have me." "I don't have anyone," she replied. That evening, a royal banquet was held to honor Prince Kale's arrival. Jacob stood at the edge of the hall, watching the event quietly. Prince Kale laughed loudly, bragged about his battles, and made rude jokes about humans. Jacob said nothing. Then Kale pointed toward him. "You there, human? Do you know how to fight?" Jacob stepped forward calmly. "Yes, sir." Duh. Kale tossed him a practice staff. "Then let's show these nobles what Earth soldiers can do." Jacob caught it without blinking. He stood ready. Queen Zalari's eyes widened. "This is not necessary," Kale charged. What followed was swift. Jacob blocked, spun, and tapped Kale's chest gently with the end of the staff. A clear win. The nobles gasped. Kale growled.
Ow!
We will want by we be on well we were with why we're ready when we're ratchet so couple and we played over time with you so when the one for when we was some more as well the but when what the wet we will to check No, I didn't, Jacob said. Queen. Zalari stood. Enough. She looked at Jacob for the first time. She felt something stronger than fear, pride, and something deeper, desire, that night. She stood in her chamber, staring at her reflection. I wanted to push him away, she whispered. But now her hand touched her chest, where her heart beat fast. I don't know if I can. The next morning, on Valeris, the royal palace buzzed with whispers. Last night's banquet had shocked everyone. The alien prince, Kale, had been defeated by a human soldier. That alone was a scandal. But what shook the nobles even more was how Queen Zelari had looked at the human afterward. There was something in her eyes. Something new. Something dangerous. Queen Zelari stood at her balcony again, watching the garden far below. The air was cool, the wind soft, but her heart was restless. She kept seeing Jacob in her mind. How calm he was during the fight, how fast he moved, how he bowed even after winning, showed no pride, no disrespect, just strength and control. She had expected to feel disgust or fear, but she didn't. She felt drawn to him. Her body warmed at the thought of him. Her breath became unsteady. She clenched the balcony rail. This can't continue, she whispered. I'm losing control. Later, in her private chamber, she called her scientist Sorla again. You told me this is a bond, some kind of instinct, Zelari said. But I need details. How far can it go? Sorla looked worried. In the old days, Valerians bonded for life. Once the body chose a partner, the mind followed. If the bond grew stronger, the queen's emotions could shift. She may begin to feel pain. When the bonded one is far away, in peace when he's near, Zelari turned away, her voice cold. I am not ruled by emotions. But emotions are growing, Sorla warned. The more you resist, the stronger they may become. That evening, Queen Zelari did something strange. She left her throne. She walked the halls alone, without guards. Not as a queen, but as a person searching for answers. And she found Jacob in the royal courtyard, sitting on a bench under a silver-leaf tree. He was looking up at the stars. The moons of Valaris reflected in his eyes. He stood when he saw her. Your Majesty? Sit, she said. He obeyed, but kept a respectful distance. She sat beside him in silence for a long time. Neither spoke. Then she asked quietly, Why didn't you boast when you beat Prince Kale? Jacob looked surprised. Because I didn't fight to win. I just defended myself. Fighting isn't about pride. It's about purpose. She looked at him closely. And what is your purpose? He paused. To protect, to help, to serve. Not just Earth, but those who need it. Zelari felt something deep stir in her chest. She was used to smooth words, fake praise and shallow flattery. But Jacob was simple, honest, solid, and she couldn't stop looking at him. The next day, her council gathered for an emergency meeting. Prince Kale was furious. He demanded that the queen either honor the marriage pact or prepare for war. He insulted me, Kale said. Let a human shame me in your own court. Zelari's advisors begged her to calm him. If war begins, Minister, Threx said, our borders will fall. We are not ready. But Zelari said nothing. She sat still, her mind racing. Was this her future? Marry Kale for politics? To his arrogance. Pretend her heart didn't race every time Jacob passed by. She stood suddenly. The meeting is over. Advisors stared. My queen, I will decide, she said. Alone. That night, she invited Jacob to her private chamber. This had never happened before. No outsider, no guard, no human had ever been inside. Jacob entered slowly, confused but calm. "Why am I here?" he asked. She stood by the window, her back to him. "Because I must understand," she said. "What are you doing to me?" Jacob blinked. "Doing? My body changes when you're near.
That's
Wander. My emotions grow stronger. You make me feel things I don't want to feel." Jacob's voice was gentle. "I'm not trying to do anything." She turned toward him, her voice sharp. "Then why can't I control myself?" He stepped forward slowly. "Maybe it's not about control. Maybe it's about trust." "Trust," she repeated. "You wear a crown. You rule a world. You never show weakness. But maybe your heart is just tired of being alone." She stared at him, stunned. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Jacob lowered his eyes. "If I'm making you uncomfortable, I'll leave." She stepped forward. "No," she said softly. "Stay." For the next hour they talked. Not as queen and soldier, but as Zalari and Jacob. She spoke of her childhood. Trained since birth to be strong, perfect, and distant. He spoke of Earth, of growing. Up in a city where no one believed in aliens until the sky opened one day, they laughed. They listened, and slowly, something changed between them. The air grew warmer. The silence between their words felt peaceful, not heavy. When Jacob smiled, Zalari's heart skipped a beat. When she touched his arm gently, her fingers trembled, but she didn't pull away. She no longer felt fear. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace doesn't last long in royal courts. The next morning, a secret meeting took place. A group of nobles and generals had grown angry. They feared the queen was falling for the human. They feared it would break old traditions. "She is losing her mind," one whispered. "The bond is making her weak." "We must protect the empire," said another, "even if it means removing the human." They planned a secret mission. Jacob would be sent to a false location, a training site outside the capital. But once he arrived, the guards there would make sure he never returned. Later that day, Jacob received the order. "You're being moved," a guard told him. "New assignment. Orders from above." He nodded and packed his gear. He didn't ask questions. He trusted them. But Queen Zalari found out. Sorla rushed to her chamber. "My queen, something is wrong."
us.
"Jacob was reassigned without your signature. It's a trap." Zalari's eyes turned cold. "Where?" "North Base. Near the frozen cliffs." Zalari didn't hesitate. "Prepare my ship." "I'm going there now." Hours later, in the snow-covered region of Valeris, Jacob stood at the edge of a cliff. Looking at the empty training ground, something felt wrong. The guards behind him had gone silent. He turned and saw weapons raised. "What is this?" "We're sorry, Corporal," the lead guard said. "Orders are orders." Jacob reached for his sidearm, but it was too light. A flash of blue light flew across the sky. Queen Zalari's personal ship landed with a storm of wind and fire. She stepped out, her gown flowing like fire, her eyes glowing with fury. "Stand down," she shouted. The guards froze. "This man is under my protection," she said. "Anyone who harms him will answer to me." She walked to Jacob and placed her hand on his shoulder. He looked at her with surprise and something more. "Why?" he asked. She answered simply, "Because I can't lose you." Back at the palace, the court was silent. The queen had chosen not politics, not safety, not fear. She had chosen him. Now, the entire galaxy would watch what happened next. Queen Zalari returned to the crystal capital with Jacob by her side. Her face was calm, but her heart burned with rage. She had trusted her counsel. She had believed her people would obey her, but now she knew some had betrayed her. They had tried to remove Jacob, not with open war, but with secret orders and false missions. They feared the bond. They feared change. And that fear had turned into a silent attack. Inside the throne room, the queen sat high on her silver seat. Jacob stood beside her in full armor, quiet but alert. Her voice echoed through the hall. "Who gave the order?" Silence. The nobles stood stiff. Generals looked away. Advisors shifted their feet, then Minister Threx stepped forward. It was done for the good of the Empire. My queen, he said, we believed the bond was clouding your judgment. The bond is not the problem, she replied coldly. Liza, but the people are afraid, another noble added. They whisper about the queen's connection to a human. They say it is unnatural. Let them whisper, she said. I will not hide in shame. After the meeting ended, Zellery walked with Jacob through the royal garden. She had guards nearby, but kept her voice low. They want you gone, she said. Some believe this bond is a threat to the Empire's future.
Ow.
Jacob looked ahead. What do you believe? She paused. I believe. I don't want you to leave. He stopped walking. Their eyes met. For a long moment, the garden was silent. Then Zellery spoke again, her voice softer. You didn't ask for this bond, neither did I, but now it's part of us. And every time you're near, I feel stronger, calmer. Jacob stepped closer. I feel it too. I don't fully understand it, but I know it's real. She reached for his hand, and this time, no gloves. Their fingers touched. Warmth spread through her entire body. There was no pain, no fear, just peace, but peace was short-lived. Later that day, a message arrived from the Trivax Empire. Prince Kael had returned to his homeworld, but he wasn't finished. He was gathering his forces, preparing for war. You rejected our alliance? The message said, You humiliated me. Oh, you will face the cost. The palace trembled with fear. Valeris was powerful, but not ready for a sudden war. Queen Zellery called her generals. We must prepare defenses, she ordered.
Oh!
The guard on every border. Alert all cities. General Voss stepped forward. My queen, if war begins, we'll need allies. Will Earth stand with us? Zellery looked at Jacob. He nodded. Let me speak to Ambassador Lin. Earth doesn't want war, but if we're attacked, we'll help. Later that night, Queen Zellery stood on the balcony again. Jacob joined her. The stars above were bright, but a storm was coming. They will call me weak, she said, for choosing a human, for refusing a royal marriage. Let them, Jacob replied. You didn't choose weakness. You chose truth. She turned to face him. I don't know what the future holds, Jacob. My enemies grow stronger. My people are afraid. But one thing is clear. She took his hand again. I want you with me. Jacob smiled. Then I'll stay. Until the end. The next morning, Queen Zellery made a bold decision. She stood in front of the entire royal court. Her voice was calm but full of power. For too long, she said, we have lived by fear, by old traditions. But change has come. She looked around at the nobles, her eyes fierce. This human saved my life. He risked his own safety when others turned against him. He is not just a soldier. He is brave, honest, and loyal. She paused and then spoke the words that shook the hall. I, Queen Zellery of Valeris, claim Corporal Jacob Reed as my chosen consort. Gasps filled the chamber, whispers shock, anger. Ah, one noble stepped forward in protest, but he is not Valerian. He is an outsider. Zellery raised her hand. Enough. This is my choice, and no law forbids it. The news spread like fire across the galaxy. Some alien empires laughed, others warned of chaos. Many waited to see what would happen next, but Earth sent a different message. Ambassador Lin, speaking to the Galactic Council, said if Queen Zellery chooses peace, Earth will support her. And if she stands with one of our own, we stand with her, but not everyone was happy. In secret, Prince Kael's fleet moved closer to Valeris. Massive warships gathered near the edge of the system. His message came loud and clear. You have 3 days to surrender, or I bring fire to your skies. Inside the palace war room, Queen Zellery and Jacob studied the star maps. We're outnumbered, General Voss said. Kael has more ships, more weapons. His fleet is twice the size of ours. Jacob pointed to a narrow asteroid belt near the edge of the system. We could use this, he said. Lure them into the belt. It's tight space. Big ships will struggle. Small fighters can move faster. Queen Zalari nodded. Our pilots are the best, and Earth has stealth drones ready. She turned to her council. Prepare for battle. That night Zalari couldn't sleep. She walked to the garden where flowers glowed under the moonlight. Jacob found her there. Are you afraid? He asked. Yes, she admitted, but not of war. Then what? She looked at him. Of losing you. Jacob stepped close. I'm not going anywhere. Their hands met again, and for the first time they shared a soft kiss, quiet, honest. Real. It was not fire. It was not passion. It was something deeper. Belonging. 3 days later, war arrived. Prince Kale's fleet appeared in the sky like a storm. Red lights, giant engines, rows of cannons, but Valeris was ready. The asteroid belt. Plan worked. The large ships became trapped. Valerian fighters darted through the rocks. Earth drones jammed enemy signals.
Ellery
Led from the command ship. Jacob fought on the ground, protecting the capital. Explosions lit the sky. Fires burned across the plains, but still, the people held strong. Kale grew desperate. He sent a final message. Face me in battle, Queen, or I destroy your palace. Zalari answered without fear. I'll face you. As Kale's dropship landed in the ruined square near the palace, Zalari walked out alone. Jacob stood behind her, wounded but standing. Kale snarled. You betrayed our pact. I chose freedom. You chose a human. I chose the one who stood with me when others turned against me. Kale attacked and raged, but he was slower now, weaker, angrier. Zalari fought with calm grace, and in the end she won. Kale fell, defeated and humiliated. His army surrendered. The war was over. The people of Valeris gathered in the capital square. Days later, Queen Zalari stepped onto the royal balcony. Beside her stood Jacob. She raised her hand, and the crowd grew quiet. We have seen war, we've seen betrayal, but we have also seen truth, courage, loyalty. She looked at Jacob and smiled. This human, once a stranger, is now my chosen. Not because of a bond, not because of tradition, but because he stood by me when it mattered most. The people bowed. The nobles said nothing. For the first time in years, Queen Zalari felt whole. 1 week after the war, the skies of Valeris were calm. The air no longer smelled of smoke. The burned fields were being cleaned, and the crystal capital was slowly returning to life. Children played in the royal gardens again. Shops reopened. Lights glowed in windows. Once more, but something else had changed too. The people had changed. They had seen their queen stand against a powerful empire. They had seen a human, just a simple soldier fight, to protect their world. And now, their hearts were beginning to accept something they never expected. Their queen had chosen a human, maybe. It wasn't wrong. In the grand throne room, Queen Zalari sat on her silver throne, wearing a long robe of white and gold. Her hair flowed over her shoulders like liquid night. But today, her crown rested on a nearby table. She wasn't meeting foreign lords. She wasn't preparing for battle. She was waiting for him. The doors opened. Jacob Reed walked in, wearing a formal Earth uniform. His left arm was still wrapped from an injury, but he stood, tall and calm. Their eyes met, and both smiled. You asked for me, my queen, Jacob said playfully. Zalari stood from her throne. Don't call me my queen right now. Then, what should I call you? She walked toward him slowly. Just Zalari. He nodded. All right, Zalari. She stopped in front of him and looked up into his eyes. I made a decision, she said. Another one. Yes, she smiled. I've already chosen you. That was the first step. But now, I want to make it official, not just in my court, not just in my heart. I want the galaxy to know. Jacob's eyes widened. Are you sure? There will be questions, she said. There will be gossip. There will be alien leaders who shake their heads and call it foolish. She took his hand, but I don't care. 2 days later, the royal square was filled with thousands of wyverns, and across the stars, millions watched through holoscreens, for the first time in history. A Valerian queen was not marrying for politics or power, but for love. Queen Zalari stood before her people, wearing a shining gown made from light threads, her crown glowing faintly. Beside her stood Jacob, dressed in a custom uniform that carried both Earth's symbol and the crest of Vela is. She spoke clearly. Once I believed strength meant control, that emotions were a weakness, that tradition was everything. She turned toward Jacob, but then a soldier arrived. Quiet, steady, strong not because of his weapons, but because of his heart. She looked at her people, and I discovered a deeper kind of strength, the kind that listens, the kind that protects without pride, the kind that stands beside you even when others walk away. She held out her hand to Jacob. I offer not just a crown, but a partnership, a life together, as queen and as woman. Jacob stepped forward and took her hand. I accept. Not because of your crown, but because of who you are. When they kissed, entire square cheered. The nobles who once whispered now bowed. The people who once doubted now smiled. Even Queen Zellari's advisors, once so afraid, stood tall with pride. Later in the garden, after the ceremony was done, Jacob and Zellari sat on a bench beneath the glowing silver-leaf tree, the same place where they had once talked alone. So, Jacob said, "You're stuck with me now." She laughed softly. "I was stuck the moment I smelled your sweat, remember?" He raised an eyebrow. "You're never going to let me live that down, are you?" "Never," she said with a smile. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the sound of fountains and wind. Then she spoke again. "I used to fear bonding. I hated the idea of losing control. She taught me something important." "What's that?" "True strength isn't about control. It's about choice." She looked at him seriously. "I chose you, not because of instinct, not because of old biology, but because I wanted to." Jacob took her hand, "And I chose you the same way." Months passed. Valeris grew stronger. Earth and Valeris built a new alliance, not just through words, but through action. Trade routes opened. Students from both worlds visited each other. Technology was shared. Peace grew. Zellari and Jacob ruled side by side, not with fear, but with respect. She still wore her crown. But now, when she walked the halls, she smiled more. He still trained with the guards. But now, when he trained, Valerian soldiers joined him, eager to learn. They had changed each other, and together they had changed the galaxy. One night, while walking through the quiet garden, Jacob asked softly, "Do you think this bond will last forever?" Zellari squeezed his hand. "I don't care if the bond fades one day. I'll still choose you." He looked at her with gentle eyes. "Then I'll keep choosing you too." They stopped beneath the glowing tree, the same place where it all began, where the queen once stood angry, confused and afraid. Now she stood, loved, peaceful, and strong. She leaned on his shoulder, and together they looked up at the stars. Two souls from different worlds, bound by chance, united by choice, and guided by love.